Good morning. My name's Jason Tiedick, and I help trainers shine in the classroom, and I help training managers help them shine. And today, I'm going to show you how to reduce your stress and increase your energy when training and when you're not training. Now, before we do that, I'd like to show you some data. Take a look at this graph. I interviewed 100 corporate trainers and their managers, and I asked them, how often do you feel drained at the end of a classroom day? You should know, always wasn't a choice. And this is what they said. Now, I have a question for you. I'd like you to take a moment and think about this with the people next to you. There are 4 people at each table, so let's assign, you can do this in a moment, one of you to be a facilitator, one to be the writer, one to be the timekeeper, and one to be the relayer to tell us what you came up with. And I'd like you to think about the following. What is it that you feel drains trainers in the classroom? That's the first question. And then the second question, which is the most important, is for you and for your trainers, what solves your stress? What do you do to solve your stress as a trainer in the classroom? Because we know that we have this stress. And as a manager, you know that your trainers have this. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and I'd like you to the writer to come up with everything you come up with. Let's see if you can come up with at least 5 key things that you do to remove your stress when you train. 5 minutes. As we're coming back together, I want to just let you know that as I surveyed these people, there were about 100 people that I surveyed, and the surveys were pretty extensive. But what's interesting is I spent about a year watching trainers in the classroom just for this purpose. So over the last 10, 15 years, I've been training trainers and helping training managers train trainers. And what's really interesting is that when you go and observe these trainers, I would typically do about a 2-hour observation. I would take around 5,000 words of notes, and then I would give each trainer 15 to 20 pages of feedback. The first 10 pages were all strengths, because I'm a firm believer in Buckingham's style, which says that people are at their best when they're doing what I call their crux, the thing they're good at and love. And I wanted to find that for each trainer. So the first thing I would say to them when I gave them feedback was, here's what you're amazing at. Here's the thing that other people just can't do as well as you. And it almost always turns out that that's the thing they enjoy as well. But what I want to know first, because there were people that left, and the number one reason? That. They were drained. They just couldn't take it anymore. Too much stress. At the end of the day, they had nothing left for their families. Why? Let's hear what you came up with. Relayers, what causes stress for your trainers and your staff, and if you're a trainer, for yourself? What have you got? You can just shout it out. Say again?
Large classes.
Large classes. And I would define a large class, by the way. There's different numbers here, but my opinion is anything bigger than 32. My dad was one of the people who founded the SAGE program here in Wisconsin. He got the class sizes down for pre-K through 2 to around 18 at the most. In my opinion, 18 is the most that I would want if I had my druthers, but once you get past 32, it can be draining. What else have you got?
Time limitations?
Time limitations, yes. It's very difficult to get past those. Others?
Technical issues?
Technical issues. Keep them coming.
That one participant.
The one, I call those the challenging people. The hecklers, the gripers, the talk hogs, the know-it-alls, the experts, the passive-aggressive people, the stubborn pacifists, the quiet types. What do you do about these people? We're going to handle them all today. What else?
Morning setup.
The setup. Yeah. You should have seen John today, how much work and energy he put into it. It's amazing how fast he got this place up. When we walked in here today, there was not a table in here. There's nothing in here. And he got it set up in a half an hour. Unbelievable. What else?
Getting class participation.
Class participation. Have you ever watched a trainer or done this yourself where you ask a question and there's that awkward silence, and yet in the last minute, I'm having trouble writing fast enough. And it has nothing to do with me. I wonder why that is. What's more, it turns out the number one fear of your trainees is looking foolish in front of their peers. The number one need of your trainees is to feel safe in front of you and their peers. The first 5 minutes is where they're most susceptible to that fear. And yet, in this first 5 minutes, we've gotten a dozen responses already. What happened here that caused that? And this is one thing you can tell your trainers. It's called the circle of knowledge. And you just simply ask them a focus question that asks them to tell you what it is that you're going to teach them anyway. Why does this work? Because it turns out, we'll get to this in a second, but it turns out that what you say are the solutions are things that you secretly want to know. This is what Carl Jung suggests. If that's true, if you go up to a bunch of people and say, what is it you most want to improve on? Let's say I'm giving a presentation on sales or forestry or mountains, whatever it is. What is it you most want to know about mountain climbing? They won't tell you as much as if you say, what makes an amazing mountain climber? Why do you think that is? Because what's their number one fear? Looking foolish. Who wants to tell you what they're no good at in front of everyone else? What they want to tell you is what they're amazing at. So whatever you're going to teach about, start it with this. What are the top 3 things that would make whatever you're going to teach about amazing? If I was going to give a presentation on giving presentations, I would say, what are the top 3 things that makes an amazing presentation? And you would give me gold. And that gold is what you also secretly want to know more about. What a wonderful way to get free market research within the first 5 minutes, make everyone feel comfortable, reduce the fear of foolishness, increase the need of safety, and do it all with 10 answers within 30 seconds to your first question. Whoa, circle of knowledge. By the way, when I interviewed these 100 trainers, here's what they told me. I'll bet the things you came up with are up here. You said manage large questions. You said apathetic trainees, negative trainees. You said lots of questions, underprepared, being on stage. Notice bad evals is the last one. Most training managers think evals are the thing that makes or breaks their trainers. Turns out it's the least thing on their mind in terms of stress and draining them, though we will deal with them. Let's move over here. What are your solutions to the stress? This is, by the way, if you're interested in taking notes, there are 2 main handouts you're going to want. The first handout is the one that says The Healthy Trainer, how to ensure you lead a well-balanced life. This has all my research in it, 30 pages of research with quotes and data from 100+ people, just like you. The other one's just simply a PowerPoint show where you can take notes here on what it is that I'm talking about so you can follow along. I'm going to reference both. But you're about to get some free market research from some really powerful and experienced peers because I met every one of you and you all do some pretty amazing things. So let's hear it. What are your solutions to this?
Venting to other trainers.
Vent to other trainers. What else? Having a co-trainer or a driver is incredibly helpful. Others?
Taking breaks.
Taking breaks.
Don't do email on your lunch. Actually, go have lunch.
No email during lunch. There's a wonderful book, I'm sure a lot of you have read it, called Getting Things Done from David Allen. I'm going to give you some of the top hitters from that book for how trainers can get things done during the classroom day without feeling drained trying to worry about them all. Love that book. What else?
Enable participants to co-train each other.
Yes, so get the trainees to be able to teach each other. The 5 stages of learning, what's the trainer talking about? Stage 2, I can see what he or she is talking about. I can do it with help. I can do it by myself. And the last one is, I can teach it to others. You know, trainers know that you learn it so much better when you have to teach it. Let's have our trainees teach each other. Others.
Interject some humor.
Interject humor. Make a note. It turns out people don't laugh because something's funny. They laugh when they're feeling good. And they don't feel good until they first feel what? Safe. Oh, so there's the 3 steps. Make them feel safe. Step 2, make them feel good. Step 3, make them laugh. Oh, and yet what do so many trainers do to, quote, break the ice right away? They come with a joke. And I'm telling you that if you get laughter in that first minute, it's nervous laughter. It's not genuine. Daniel Pink in his book, A Whole New Mind, suggests that there's a zygomatic muscle connecting the corners of your eyes and mouth that's only engaged when you smile sincerely. You cannot fake a smile. So many trainers are told, go up and smile right away. No, not if that's not genuine for you. If you're not feeling like smiling, it will be fake. Your mouth will smile, but your eyes, if you cover up your mouth and nose, might look evil. Others.
We had exercise.
Exercise.
Meditation.
Meditation. And beer. I'm going to teach you the top forms. That's awesome. I'm going to teach you the top forms of exercise for trainers today, both during the day as well as at the end or before. I'm going to teach you how to meditate today. I'm just going to call it daydream, and I'm going to give you 4 steps to do it. What else?
Introduce yourself, make a friend.
Introduce yourself. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but there's a full class in here today. There's a full group, and every single one of you, at least the ones that were here before I got started, I wrote your names down on this chart. I introduced every one of you. When I went up to you, this is what you can teach your trainers, I waited to see if you extended your hand before I shook it. Half the people in this country don't want someone to shake their hand. One woman said to me, after I go to the bathroom and wash my hands, the last thing I want is for somebody to shake my hand. One man said to me, I find it entirely disrespectful when someone doesn't shake my hand. What is a trainer to do? You just do like the Wild West. You wait for them to draw. And then you draw. That's helpful to calm the nerves of your trainers, is to introduce themselves to everyone. When you do the introduction, kneel or sit next to the person. Never stand, because this implies dominance. And we don't want to imply that. We want to be at the same level. Give me 3 more things that are solutions to your stress. A parking lot. It turns out that you don't have to know the answer to every question. I was working with a brand new trainer. She was 22, fresh out of college. We were at a company that puts their hands on the wall when someone has been there 10 years. And she said to me, Jason, my number 1 goal when you help me with my training is to learn how to manage questions so I don't look green. She learned a set of question techniques from me, which starts with paraphrasing the question and listening to it, and then if it's in scope, answering it. If it's out of scope, not answering it at that point, waiting till later. Because what do most trainers do when they decide if they should answer? If they know the answer or not. What did she learn to do? If it's in scope or not. She did this, and by the end of the 2nd day, her class took a tour around the building, saw the hands on the wall, and asked her where hers was. She was 22. Whoa, so questions can either relieve stress or cause it. Others.
Well, managers can help manage stress. So that's not directly the trainer managing it, but we said good change management practices and leadership. And,
Yes, absolutely.
basically backing your
What can managers do to help manage the stress? Of the 100 people that I surveyed on this, and it wasn't just one email survey, it was lots of interviews and research, 10 of them were training managers. You're going to get to hear from them today. In that handout, there's 30 pages of quotes from a number of them. As you're listening to me, read through those. There's lots of cool examples. One more thing. Set expectations. What's the difference between a boundary and an expectation? One says what I want you to do. One says what I'm going to do. Which one's which? The boundary says what I'm going to do. If I say to a child, don't jump. I have a 2-year-old right now. His name's Trey. What's Trey going to do? Jump. He's going to jump, because what's the action he hears? Jump. By the way, if I do want to set an expectation, I always want it to be in the positive. Stand still. is better than don't jump. But if I really want to impress credibility on this person, I want to set a boundary. I give treats to kids that stay still. I was watching a high school teacher, one of the best I'd ever seen in an inner city school, and he looks out at his students, and they were very, just all over the place. And he couldn't teach them. They weren't ready to be taught. So he looked out at his students and he said, I teach students that are sitting still and being quiet. They continued to cause a ruckus. He said it one more time. They still didn't listen. So he walked over to his desk, sat in his chair, and let the whole period go by without ever talking to them again that day. The next day, he came in and said the same thing. They still caused a ruckus. He did the same thing. 3 days later, they finally said to him, we'll call him Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith, aren't you going to teach us? He got back up, and what do you think he said? I teach students that sit still and are quiet. And they did that for him. The next year, this was a school that I had taught at, I walked in and I said to Mr. Smith, could you show me my students, the same ones I taught integrated math to last year? These were 9th graders then, 10th graders now. He said, oh, Jason, come with me. We went to the room of the kids that had all given me hugs the previous year. They were so excited about math. They didn't fail, and they were successful in that. And we saw one child, one student, standing on the teacher's desk playing keep away with the stapler from the teacher with 6 other kids running around the room. And I looked at Mr. Smith and I said, what happened? And he said, oh, Jason, he lost them within the first week. I said, well, do something about it. He goes, there's nothing that can be done. It's over for him. I said, what do you mean there's nothing that can be done? He said, once you lose that credibility, it's next to impossible to get it back. For trainers, it might not be a whole year. It might be a day, 2 days, 3 days, even 2 hours. It's the first 30 minutes, the first lessons before break that literally make or break everything. Your evals are pretty much determined by 90 minutes in. For me, I'm going to be speaking for 2 hours. It's literally the first 15 minutes. You're going to decide right now, this is the point, where you're going to say, maybe I should keep listening to this guy, or I've had enough and I'm going to go, either physically or mentally. So what do we do about all this? Well, here's what these trainers and managers told me they do. Check it out. Have fun, meet my needs, recharge my energy, control non-classroom work, prepare myself, leverage other trainers, interpret feedback, manage large classes, etc. This is what I decided to base my entire agenda over. And I'm going to start with 10 things, 10 topics, 27 practical techniques that will help you increase your energy and decrease your stress in the classroom.